even northern Florida, Apalachicola, Franklin County getting peppered with all of the lightning bolts. You see that? Watch this last scan, that last moment. See that condensed kind of burst of lightning? That just shows you that energy when it taps from water on land. That's a big factor in all of this. Now, what are major cities like Tampa and those nearby surrounding areas like St. Pete Beach doing out ahead of this event? Well, there's nobody better to ask than meteorologist Ian Aller. You've probably seen him. He's always on right before our show. He did a great job from the field today. Ian, can I ask you something about the bridges there? I know this seems kind of out of left field, but those bridges, they shut down with a certain wind threshold. Yep. I think that's kind of a concern that we haven't even gotten to talk about because there's been so many impacts from this storm.
Yes, Steve, the big one, the Sunshine Skyway Bridge, which goes right over the mouth of Tampa Bay. It connects Pinellas County, where we are. This is 35 miles of sandy beaches in Pinellas County. You go over the big Sunshine Skyway Bridge. It's a giant one. If you have a fear of heights, a lot of folks don't love it, especially when the wind's blowing. That's what takes you across the bay into Manatee County as if you were going down to Bradenton. The issue is that once the wind gets up to about 40 miles per hour, that's the threshold roughly, Florida Highway Patrol shuts it down. So all of a sudden that trip from Pinellas County to Manatee County gets a whole lot longer. You got to go all the way around the bay. And the other question is, from Pinellas over to Hillsborough County, where Tampa is, you get the Howard Franklin Bridge, the Gandy, and the Courtney Campbell Causeway, 3 bridges. There's 1 million people in both counties, and with the surge that's forecast tomorrow, we may see those bridges closed. Steve, I was talking to you earlier right here on Fox Weather when all the phones, there were still people around at that point here in Paso Grill Beach, and it was the mandatory evacuation order. It made the alert tone, it scared everybody, and we saw that. Folks have cleared out, thankfully for the most part, but it was just that, a mandatory evacuation order. We had a hotel here close by in St. Pete, a little bit farther off to the north and east from here. We can't stay there tonight. We have to go back to Tampa. We're actually wondering, it's interesting that you mentioned the bridges, Steve, if we'll be able to get back across the bridges tomorrow, spending the night in Tampa after we wrap up. So we'll see. Steve, one more thing. I see you keep showing the Key West camera. I feel like that's coming attractions because we had that one band that came through earlier. You showed radar a few moments back. We've been staring at some lightning off in the distance. It's one of the things I miss about living down in Florida. When you're at the coast and you're looking out over the Gulf, you can see forever. Those storms are like 30, 35 miles away. Lightning's been flashing. That's going to be moving in, and that's going to change up the whole tranquil feel. It's kind of the eerie calm before the storm right now. Once that next band moves in, obviously we get the rain, we may get some lightning, we'll take cover. If it's still producing some when it gets closer. But beyond that, I think the winds start to pick up ahead of tomorrow, which, as you pointed out, the rapid intensification overnight tomorrow is going to be a very rough day. Tropical storm warning in effect, hurricane watch, because we could easily see hurricane force gusts right here at the coast.
Yeah, Ian, it feels like, warm, humid in Florida, of course. It feels eerily quiet until you get that rumble of thunder, and then it reminds you just how much energy is waiting to be tapped into. Real quickly, shout out to David Rubin. He's out there with you along with Andy. He was talking to me before about how difficult it's been. Yeah, how difficult it's been for your team to coordinate where to stay because of those evacuations, right? This has been something not only for you, but of course residents. I mean, this thing is so massive that even if you drive inland, you're still going to take some type of big impact from Helene.
Yes, no question, and that has happened with storms in the past. You've had folks, Idalia was one of them, folks left the West Coast. You oftentimes don't have to go that far, but when you get into a big storm like this, yes, you have to go farther to escape some of the big impacts, but strictly related to surge. And I think that was one of the key messages that Florida's governor, Ron DeSantis, was talking about earlier. You don't have to go far. The old, I know it's kind of a tired adage that you run from the water, hide from the wind, But yeah, sometimes you only got to go to a family or a friend 5-6 miles up the road, get out of the flood zone. And a lot of the new construction, because of some of the codes that have been put in place by the storms of record, part of life in Florida is dealing with tropical systems. Most spots can be safe up into Cat 1, Cat 2 intensity, you'd be just fine. But when you have surge in the mix, which in this area, we could see up to 8 feet, that would break some of the records in the bay set last year by Adalia. There's really nothing that stands up to the force of water crashing into the coastline. So yes, if you're in an evacuation zone, please just get to a safe place. It doesn't have to be afar. And this is one of those examples of that, Steve.
Yeah, hey, Ian, I know you got a couple friends down there in Tampa, of course, living there. They may let you stay in. I don't know if they'll let David in. He might have to sleep in the car, but all kidding aside, it just shows you how difficult all of this is to coordinate. Fox weather meteorologist Ian Oliver, thank you for being with us. And, of course, stay safe, my friend. We'll keep talking with Ian. The entire team is out there. We've got so many people that are out to tell you the story. About 5 miles from Ian is where we actually find Fox weather correspondent Brenda Campbell. She's in Tampa, Florida, right? And she's talking about that same type of threat, that storm surge threat that could be looming even for the Bay Area. Tampa, is a spot, Brandy, which is flood prone. What are you kind of feeling? Are you also hearing the rumbles of thunder, kind of what Ian was alluding to?
Yeah, I heard him talking about it. So far, I haven't heard any thunder just yet, so I'll take that. It means, we'll be good to be outside just a little bit longer because I know that we do have rain that will be in our future for tonight, but I think we'll take not having to put on the rain gear for as long as possible here in the downtown area, which is very quiet at this point. It's very eerie. Not a lot of people actually out and about. If you do take a look in our background, you'll see there's a couple of cars of people that are parked here along the Hillsborough River in downtown. But for the most part, we've only come across a couple of people, and every now and then you'll see cars driving through. So that is the current mood here in this area of downtown. Very quiet, not a lot of people out. So we'll take that as folks are, starting their shelter in place, maybe at home, or if they've already evacuated, because we are also under that mandatory evacuation. Steve was talking about that storm surge. We could see storm surge up to 8 feet. Again, we have the water just right behind where we are standing. So if we were to see the water go up to that expectation, it would be well over my head. I'm 5'2", so I believe the range is 5 to 8 feet. So regardless, it's almost over my head or well above. So not a situation that you want to be out here. So one thing we've noted, just calling some of the hotels that are just across the street, they have evacuated and they're closed until Friday if they can open on that day. Our hotel, which is right in front of me, they said they are going to open because obviously not everybody can evacuate if they need to. Some people will need to do that locally, so they will be housing people in the duration of this storm. They have a garage, so our cars can be elevated. That's the good news. And then speaking more just around us, we're next to the convention center. They've gone ahead and they've put up sandbags. We have video of that. That's something that people across this county, and I'm sure just across the state of Florida, have been doing. This county, Hillsborough County, they have given out over 23,000 sandbags as of yesterday. So I'll be curious to see what number it rose to after today's giveaway for sandbags that ended at 7 p.m. Eastern time. On top of that, behind us across the river, we also have the Tampa General Hospital. They have something very interesting, an aqua barrier, excuse me. I probably got that name wrong. Let's see. It's the aqua fence. And so we actually just took a drive over there to take a look, and it varies depending on the elevation of where they have the fence set up, but it pretty much surrounds the hospital, just closing off any areas where they're exposed for water to get inside. And so that'll protect them for up to 15 foot of storm surge. We'll have video of that in the next hit to show you guys what that looks like. They're not evacuating at this point. It's a level 1 trauma center. They're going to be open and ready for folks after this hurricane passes through. Hopefully we won't see, a lot of folks having to rush to the hospital. Wishing the best for everybody out there. And speaking of people who are here and riding it out, we met 2 college students, speaking to them about their concerns for the duration of this storm. I caught them as they were out here riding on their skateboards. Here's what they said, because they'll be riding it out on the same island where that hospital is. Take a listen.
The biggest concern is definitely going to be the flooding. I mean, we had a rainstorm last week on campus, and the flooding was up to everybody's waist, and just like Bayshore, all the streets flooded really bad. They have poor systems like for draining water, so the flooding is just awful. So it's going to be scary with the storm surge coming in.
It's got a very eerie feeling, very quiet. The water is really still. I don't know, just a really eerie feeling. You can definitely sense the feeling of something that's coming.
All right, and Johnny, that we had spoke to in that interview as well, he was very concerned also about his home, saying he's not sure, if he's going to get flooding inside or not. They did put up sandbags, but he was definitely concerned about it. So I'm going to follow up with them in the duration of the storm and just see how they are doing along with other residents. Hopefully everything will be okay with them, but they also noted many of their classmates have actually left because of that mandatory evacuation, so they cannot stay on campus either. Some of them going to other parts of the state because, you don't have to leave the state of Florida. You just need to make sure that you are out of harm's way when it comes to that storm surge. So you got to get away, run from the water, hide from the wind, right, Steve?
Yeah, and it's an adage that's going to be repeated, and it's a concern when you think about college kids thinking, where's my secondary location? Many don't live in the state of Florida like their family, and so now you're starting to think, okay, do I go to a hotel? Well, there's a lot of other people thinking the same thing. Is that going to be open for them or not? Just kind of an example of the concern out ahead of this. Fox weather correspondent Brandon Campbell, thank you for that update from Tampa, Florida. And as we take a look at areas like Key West, this is a spot where they've been getting blasted with that, the rough surf. Tropical storm force winds are at nearly that, continue to hit this area, and they're about a couple hundred miles from Helene. This just shows you that type of concern. We'll have more on what's next with Helene after the break. Stay with us.
To penetrate well inland across the southeastern United States, including over the higher terrain of the southern Appalachians. Hurricane force winds extend outward up to 25 miles, 35 kilometers from the center, and tropical storm force winds extend outward up to 345 miles, 555 kilometers. The estimated minimum central pressure is 978 millibars, 28.88 inches. Helene to bring significant impacts to north and central Georgia through Friday's situation overview. Hurricane Helene is currently southwest of the Florida Peninsula and is forecast to track northward and accelerate over the eastern Gulf of Mexico through Thursday. Helene is forecast to become a major hurricane shortly before making landfall along the Big Bend of Florida on Thursday evening. Significant impacts are expected across the north and central Georgia Thursday and Friday, with lingering flooding impacts over the weekend. Rainfall amounts of 4 to 10 inches, with localized amounts over 12 inches, are expected. The highest amounts are expected over a wide swath paralleling I-85 into northeast Georgia from Columbus to Atlanta to Gainesville and the northeast Georgia mountains. Widespread flooding is expected, with significant flash flooding and moderate to major river flooding possible. Hurricane and tropical storm force wind gusts, potentially exceeding 70 miles per hour, are expected to begin across the southern portion of the forecast area on Thursday evening, then spread north overnight into Friday morning and continuing into the afternoon. Given the saturated soils, widespread downing of trees and significant power outages are expected. Prepare for an extended period of power loss. Short-lived tornadoes will also be possible across east central Georgia Thursday evening through early Friday morning, with greatest potential for areas north and east of the track of Helene. Helene will be an expansive system with impacts occurring well away from the storm center. Preparations should be completed well before impacts begin. The time to act is now. Here is the hazardous weather outlook. This hazardous weather outlook is for portions of north and central Georgia. For this afternoon and tonight, periods of heavy rainfall and localized flash flooding, which are not associated with Helene, will continue across portions of north and central Georgia. The greatest potential for flash flooding will be roughly along the Interstate 85 corridor. In addition, a few strong to severe storms with damaging winds will be possible. A tornado cannot be ruled out. And now the extended outlook for the period Thursday through Tuesday. A flood watch is in effect for north and central Georgia through Friday afternoon. Tropical storm conditions are expected across the area, with hurricane conditions also possible in portions of central Georgia. Strong, damaging wind gusts and significant, potentially life-threatening flash flooding and river flooding are expected. Expect strong winds to bring widespread and potentially extended power outages. Spotter information statement. Spotters should be prepared for activation, especially from Thursday through Friday morning. Please relay any information about observed severe weather to the National Weather Service while following all local and state guidelines. The current time is 9:17 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. A tropical storm warning remains in effect for the following counties in Georgia: Baldwin, Banks, Barrow, Bartow, Butts, Carroll, Catoosa, Chattooga, Cherokee, Clark, Clayton, Cobb, Coweta, Dawson, DeKalb, Douglas, Emmanuel, Fannin, Fayette, Floyd, Forsyth, Gilmer, Glasscock, Gordon, Greene, Gwinnett, Hall, Hancock, Harrelson, Harris, Hurd, Henry, Jackson, Jasper, Jefferson, Johnson, Jones, Limar, Lawrence, Lumpkin, Madison, Meriwether, Monroe, Morgan, Murray, Newton, North Fulton, Oconee, Oglethorpe, Paulding, Pickens, Pike, Polk, Putnam, Rockdale, South Fulton, Spalding, Tolliver, Towns, Trutland, Troop, Union, Upson, Walker, Walton, Warren, Washington, Wheeler, White, Whitfield, Wilkes, and Wilkinson. A tropical storm watch remains in effect for the following counties in Georgia: Baldwin, Banks, Barrow, Bartow, Butts, Carroll, Catoosa, Chattooga, Cherokee, Clark, Clayton, Cobb, Coweta, Dawson, DeKalb, Douglas, Emmanuel, Fannin, Fayette, Floyd, Forsyth, Gilmer, Glasscock, Gordon, Greene, Gwinnett, Hall, Hancock, Harrelson, Hurd, Henry, Jackson, Jasper, Jefferson, Johnson, Jones, Limar, Lumpkin, Madison, Meriwether, Monroe, Morgan, Murray, Newton, North Fulton, Oconee, Oglethorpe, Paulding, Pickens, Pike, Polk, Putnam, Rockdale, South Fulton, Spalding, Tolliver, Towns, Troop, Union, Upson, Walker, Walton, Warren, Washington, White, Whitfield, Wilkes, and Wilkinson. Here are the 9 p.m. weather observations from around the area. At Atlanta, with rain and fog, the temperature was 67 degrees, dew point 65 degrees, relative humidity 93%, wind northeast at 14 miles an hour, pressure was 29.90 inches and falling. Around Atlanta, at Chamblee, with heavy rain and fog, it was 64, wind calm. At Marietta, with light rain and fog, it was 67, wind east at 8. At Mableton, with rain, it was 65, wind northeast at 6. At Peachtree City, it was cloudy and 66, wind calm. At Lawrenceville, with light rain, it was 65, wind variable at 3. At Cartersville, it was cloudy and 66, wind calm. At Kennesaw, it was cloudy and 64, wind variable at 3. At Hampton, with light rain, it was 65, wind northeast at 3. At Covington, with light rain. At Monroe, with rain, the temperature was 64. Elsewhere around the region, at Athens, it was cloudy and 67, wind northeast at 6. At Gainesville, with light rain, it was 64, wind northeast at 7. At Macon, it was cloudy and 72, wind north at 12. At Columbus, it was cloudy and 69, wind northeast at 5. At Birmingham, it was mostly cloudy and 74, wind northeast at 6. At Rome, it was mostly cloudy and 67, wind calm. At Chattanooga, it was mostly cloudy and 70, wind south at 3. At Asheville, with heavy rain and fog, it was 65, wind northwest at 9. At Augusta, it was cloudy and 77, wind southeast at 6. At St. Simon's Island, it was cloudy and 82, wind east at 13. At 4 p.m. Central Daylight Time, or Oregon, 2100 UTC. The center of Hurricane Helene was located near latitude 22.5 north, longitude 86.6 west. Helene is moving toward the north near 12 miles per hour, 19 kilometers/h. A northward or north-northeastward motion at a faster forward speed is expected during the next 36 hours. On the forecast track, Helene will move across the eastern Gulf of Mexico tonight and Thursday and cross the Florida Big Bend coast Thursday evening. After landfall, Helene is expected to turn northwestward and slow down over the Tennessee Valley on Friday and Saturday. Maximum sustained winds are near 85 miles per hour, 140 kilometers/h with higher gusts. Strengthening is forecast, and Helene is expected to be a major hurricane when it reaches the Florida Big Bend coast Thursday evening. Weakening is expected after landfall, but Helene's fast forward speed will allow strong, damaging winds, especially in gusts, to penetrate well inland across the southeastern United States, including over the higher terrain of the southern Appalachians. Hurricane force winds extend outward up to 25 miles 35 kilometers from the center, and tropical storm force winds extend outward up to 345 miles 555 kilometers. The estimated minimum central pressure is 978 millibars, 28.88 inches. Here is the official forecast from your National Weather Service for the Atlanta listening area. Tonight, showers. Thunderstorms likely, mainly early. Locally heavy rainfall possible. Near steady temperature in the upper 60s. Northeast winds 5 to 10 miles an hour. Chance of rain near 100%. Thursday, windy, showers. A slight chance of thunderstorms in the morning, then a chance of thunderstorms in the afternoon. Locally heavy rainfall possible. Highs in the lower 70s. East winds 20 to 25 miles an hour. Gusts up to 30 miles an hour in the afternoon. Chance of rain near 100%. Thursday night, very windy. A chance of thunderstorms. Showers. Locally heavy rainfall possible in the evening. Near steady temperature in the upper 60s. East winds 20 to 25 miles an hour, increasing to 35 to 40 miles an hour after midnight. Gusts up to 65 miles an hour. Chance of rain near 100%. Friday, very windy. Mostly cloudy with a chance of showers and a slight chance of thunderstorms in the morning, then partly sunny with a chance of showers in the afternoon. Highs in the mid-70s. South winds 40 to 45 miles an hour, becoming southwest 20 to 25 miles an hour in the afternoon. Gusts up to 65 miles an hour. Chance of rain 40%. Friday night, partly cloudy. A slight chance of showers in the evening. Lows in the lower 60s. South winds 5 to 10 miles an hour. And now the extended forecast. Saturday and Saturday night, partly cloudy. A slight chance of showers. Highs in the mid-70s. Lows in the lower 60s. Sunday and Sunday night, partly cloudy. Highs in the upper 70s. Lows in the lower 60s. Monday and Monday night, partly cloudy. A slight chance of showers. Highs in the upper 70s. Lows in the lower 60s. Tuesday and Tuesday night, partly cloudy. Highs in the upper 70s. Lows in the lower 60s. Wednesday and Wednesday night, clear. Highs in the upper 70s. Lows in the upper 50s. For more detailed weather, water, and climate information, please visit our website at weather.gov/Atlanta. What? Flooding caused by excessive rainfall continues to be possible. Where? Portions of central, east central, north central, northeast, northwest, southeast, and west central Georgia, including the following areas in central Georgia: Baldwin, Bibb, Bleckley, Butts, Crawford, Crisp, Dodge, Dooley, Houston, Jasper, Jones, Lawrence, Monroe, Montgomery, Peach, Pulaski, Putnam, Telfair, Twiggs, Wheeler, Wilcox, and Wilkinson. In east central Georgia, Emmanuel, Glasscock, Greene, Hancock, Jefferson, Johnson, Tolliver, Trutland, Warren, Washington, and Wilkes. In north central Georgia, Barrow, Cherokee, Clayton, Cobb, Dawson, DeKalb, Douglas, Fannin, Fayette, Forsyth, Gilmer, Gwinnett, Hall, Henry, Lumpkin, Morgan, Newton, North Fulton, Pickens, Rockdale, South Fulton, Union, and Walton. In northeast Georgia, Banks, Clark, Jackson, Madison, Oconee, Oglethorpe, Townsend, White. In northwest Georgia, Bartow, Carroll, Catoosa, Chattooga, Dade, Floyd, Gordon, Harrelson, Murray, Paulding, Polk, Walker, and Whitfield. In southeast Georgia, Toombs. In west central Georgia, Chattahoochee, Coweta, Harris, Hurd, Limar, Macon, Marion, Meriwether, Muskogee, Pike, Schley, Spalding, Stewart, Sumter, Talbot, Taylor, Troop, Upson, and Webster. When, through Friday afternoon. Impacts. Excessive runoff may result in significant flooding of rivers, creeks, streams, and other low-lying and flood-prone locations. Creeks and streams may rise out of their banks. Substantial flooding may occur in poor drainage and urban areas. Additional details. Areas of heavy rainfall will continue across much of north and portions of central Georgia through tonight, which will likely lead to areas of flash flooding. Additional widespread torrential rainfall is expected to overspread the area Thursday into Thursday night as Hurricane Helene approaches. Storm total rainfall of 4 to 10 inches with locally higher amounts over 12 inches are expected through Friday. Widespread flooding is expected with significant flash flooding and moderate to major river flooding possible. http://www.weather.gov/safety/flood. You should monitor later forecasts and be alert for possible flood warnings. Those living in areas prone to flooding should be prepared to take action should flooding develop. What? Moderate flooding is forecast. This approaches the flood of record. Where? Big Creek near Alpharetta. When? From Thursday afternoon to late Sunday morning. Impacts. At 7.0 feet, flood stage is reached. Minor flooding of woodlands and fields begin along the creek between coming in Forsyth County to Alpharetta and Roswell in North Fulton County. Flooding starts to affect portions of the Big Creek Greenway near Alpharetta, and some portions may become closed with around 1 foot of water, especially upstream and downstream from the gauge on Kimball Bridge Road and near Rockma Park. Portions of the Inqua Campground off Preston Ridge Road will begin to flood. At 11.0 feet, moderate flooding begins and occurs upstream and downstream from the gauge on Kimball Bridge Road near Rockma Park. Backyards of homes off Seal Drive and Gunter Court and portions of the Golf Club of Georgia are under 2 feet of water. Backyards of homes off Jade Cove Circle and Longview Circle near Roswell begin to flood. The Big Creek Greenway will be flooded up to 5 feet deep and will be closed. A large portion of the Inqua Campground off Preston Ridge Road will be under 3 feet of water. At 12.0 feet, significant flooding expands along the creek as water reaches the bottom of a footbridge just downstream of the gauge on Kimball Bridge Road. Backyards of homes off Seal Drive and Gunter Court and portions of the Golf Club of Georgia are under 3 feet of water. Backyards of homes off Jade Cove Circle and Longview Circle near Roswell will be under a foot of water. The Big Creek Greenway is flooded up to 6 feet deep. Flooding covers portions of Rockma Park and the Inqua Campground off Preston Ridge Road. Additional details. At 9:15 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time Wednesday, the stage was 6.2 feet. Forecast. The river is expected to rise above flood stage late tomorrow morning to a crest of 11.5 feet Friday evening. It will then fall below flood stage early Sunday morning. Flood stage is 7.0 feet. Flood history. This crest compares to a previous crest of 11.7 feet on April 14, 1979. http://www.weather.gov/safety/flood. At 4 p.m. Central Daylight Time, Oregon, 2100 UTC. The center of Hurricane Helene was located near latitude 22.5 north, longitude 86.6 west. Helene is moving toward the north near 12 miles per hour, 19 kilometers/h. A northward or north-northeastward motion at a faster forward speed is expected during the next 36 hours. On the forecast track, Helene will move across the eastern Gulf of Mexico tonight and Thursday and cross the Florida Big Bend coast Thursday evening. After landfall, Helene is expected to turn northwestward and slow down over the Tennessee Valley on Friday and Saturday. Maximum sustained winds are near 85 miles per hour, 140 kilometers/h with higher gusts. Strengthening is forecast, and Helene is expected to be a major hurricane when it reaches the Florida Big Bend coast Thursday evening. Weakening is expected after landfall, but Helene's fast forward speed will allow strong, damaging winds, especially in gusts, to penetrate well inland across the southeastern United States, including over the higher terrain of the southern Appalachians. Hurricane force winds extend outward up to 25 miles 35 kilometers from the center, and tropical storm force winds extend outward up to 345 miles 555 kilometers. The estimated minimum central pressure is 978 millibars, 28.88 inches. A tropical storm warning remains in effect for the following counties in Georgia: Baldwin, Banks, Barrow, Bartow, Butts, Carroll, Catoosa, Chattooga, Cherokee, Clark, Clayton, Cobb, Coweta, Dawson, DeKalb, Douglas, Emmanuel, Fannin, Fayette, Floyd, Forsyth, Gilmer, Glasscock, Gordon, Greene, Gwinnett, Hall, Hancock, Harrelson, Harris, Hurd, Henry, Jackson, Jasper, Jefferson, Johnson, Jones, Limar, Lawrence, Lumpkin, Madison, Meriwether, Monroe, Morgan, Murray, Newton, North Fulton, Oconee, Oglethorpe, Paulding, Pickens, Pike, Polk, Putnam, Rockdale, South Fulton, Spalding, Tolliver, Towns, Trutland, Troop, Union, Upson, Walker, Walton, Warren, Washington, Wheeler, White, Whitfield, Wilkes, and Wilkinson. A tropical storm watch remains in effect for the following counties in Georgia: Baldwin, Banks, Barrow, Bartow, Butts, Carroll, Catoosa, Chattooga, Cherokee, Clark, Clayton, Cobb, Coweta, Dawson, DeKalb, Douglas, Emmanuel, Fannin, Fayette, Floyd, Forsyth, Gilmer, Glasscock, Gordon, Greene, Gwinnett, Hall, Hancock, Harrelson, Hurd, Henry, Jackson, Jasper, Jefferson, Johnson, Jones, Limar, Lumpkin, Madison, Meriwether, Monroe, Morgan,
There is a storm
Murray,
coming.
Newton,
An
North
event like the
Fulton,
world has never seen
Oconee,
before.
Oglethorpe,
The
Paulding,
emerging event
Pickens,
will have little to
Pike,
do with weather,
Polk,
but more about
Rockdale,
developing
South
situations
Fulton,
that were foreseen
Spalding,
many years
Tolliver,
ago.
Towns,
We have
Troop,
always warned you
Union,
during severe
Upson,
weather and
Walker,
news events that
Walton,
affected many.
Warren, Washington,
Now,
White,
Channel 1 Atlanta
Whitfield,
begins a
Wilkes,
new
and
series to
Wilkinson.
warn you about what's coming soon,
Here are the
and make
9
sure you
p.m.
are
weather
prepared.
observations from
Join
around
us on
the
a new
area.
journey, as according to a
Atlanta,
recent
with
survey,
rain and
a
fog,
lot of
the
people
temperature
believe we
was
are living in the
67
last
degrees.
days.
Dew point
Current news
65
events
degrees.
show us now more than
Relative
ever.
humidity
History,
93%.
time is
Wind
setting the
northeast
stage
at
for
14
the
miles an
storm.
hour.
A new
Pressure was
series, now playing
29.90
only on
inches
Channel
and
1
falling.
Atlanta.
Around Atlanta, at Chamblee, with heavy rain and fog, it was 64. Wind calm. At Marietta, with light rain and fog, it was 67. Wind east at 8. At Mableton, with rain, it was 65.
Again, a confirmed tornado on the ground in downtown Conyers. This is a very dangerous and life-threatening weather event. Get into the interior section of your house, away from windows or a basement if you have. And there's the debris right there in the Millstead area near the Rockdale Medical Center. Right. Channel 1 Atlanta.
shelters opening up. The Big Bend taking the final steps to brace for Hurricane Helene, which could be the most powerful to ever hit Tallahassee. Thank you for joining us at 6. I'm Julie Montanaro.
And I'm Jacob Murphy. This video shows the impact of Hurricane Helene as it passed through the resort town of Cancun, Mexico as a Category 1 storm. But the latest projections show it could become a powerful Category 4 hurricane before making landfall.
We have a new update from the National Hurricane Center within the last hour. Chief Meteorologist Mike McCall is here now with the very latest on that new information. Mike.
I know a lot of folks, maybe if you're just now tuning in and your heart sank when you heard Category 4, yes, that is the new forecast. Now, it's only a 5-mile-per-hour difference, but it was already forecast to be a strong 3. So that part is only a minor difference. But we've seen, because of that, some changes too in the storm surge forecast, which have gone up to as high as 15 to 20 feet over the middle and eastern parts of Apalachee Bay, and even 10 to 15 feet farther west. So we're talking unsurvivable storm surge if you live near the coast. Don't stay. You have to leave. Wind damage is very likely. Power outages, widespread power outages are very, very likely. There will be very few spots that won't have power outages nearby, so just plan for that. The heavy rainfall, yes, that's part of it too, but again, that's kind of in third place behind the surge and the wind in this particular system. Winds are at 85, so it is still a Category 1 hurricane. It's actually been fighting off a little bit of drier air. Not for much longer. It's expected to really come together, get larger and move faster and get stronger. All those happening quickly, so that by tomorrow afternoon, expected to be a Category 4. The wind's 130. That's only 5 miles per hour faster than what was forecast last time around. So it's not that big of a difference, but it still just increases the threat a little bit more of what we were already expecting, which is a major impact, a get to a safe place impact throughout all of the Big Bend and South Georgia. By Friday morning, it's long gone. The center moves way up here, and then it becomes other people's problems. But look how I've narrowed down the models to just these consensus models, which uses several of them. They are clustered right through the middle of our viewing area. And it's going to be a large system. So just because you may be 20 or 30 miles east or west of this doesn't mean you won't see the big impacts. The highest winds will be near that center, but they're going to be strong everywhere. That's going to generate these mammoth amounts of storm surge along the Big Bend coast. You have to leave. If you haven't already, you need to. You can't be around there tomorrow afternoon when conditions get too bad. There's a satellite view. A little bit of dry air that's kind of wrapped around that center that kind of stalled that intensification ever so slightly. It's not enough to make a big difference. The forecast, which there are still 1 or 2 outliers which go farther east, that part really doesn't matter, because at this time, a little bit east or west is not going to change the big impacts for the whole viewing area. All of South Georgia, all of the Big Bend, prepare for this. By Friday, we're talking about cleaning up, but prepare to be without power for several days in some spots. We'll talk more about numbers, rainfall amounts, wind speeds, all of that coming up in a few more minutes.
Mike, you're not one to take this kind of tone if you don't mean it, so we certainly appreciate that.
No, it's sad, but that's what we have to be ready for.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Mike. Leon County students had a half day of school today. 7 Leon County schools are reopening right now to serve as shelters during the upcoming storm. Doors just opened moments ago at 6 o'clock. This comes as mandatory evacuation orders are in several of our coastal counties and for Leon County residents who live in mobile homes.
Our Matt Hoffman joins us live now from one of those shelters as the doors open up. Matt, how are things where you are?
Yeah, things here at Childs High School perfectly calm. The shelter just opening. The shelter is going to serve both humans and pets, more on that later, from mobile homes who are under mandatory evacuation or perhaps from neighborhoods that are still damaged, like Indian Head. Now, Pastor Judy Mandrill says Indian Head is taking this threat seriously, especially because some homes are still weakened from tornadoes earlier this year. Mandrill says some homes are boarded up and most of the community has stockpiled food and water. They join other vulnerable sites like mobile home parks, which will be at risk starting tomorrow.
Especially in the area where I live, we check on them, make sure they're okay. And one of the things I say to everyone, I'm a woman of faith. I believe God can do anything. I believe he will do anything. I will pray and ask him to dissipate this storm. but we're also preparing.
Again, here in Leon County, the only folks under a mandatory evacuation are those in mobile home or manufactured homes. But all 7 Leon County shelters are open to anyone who needs a place to stay. And guys, the number one concern I had from people in the community is, well, what about my pet if I have to evacuate? Well, check this out. This is in the basement here at the high school. There's an entire emergency shelter ready to go so you and your pet will be safe. In Leon County, I'm Matt Hoffman, WCTV Eyewitness News.
All right, Matt, certainly part of the family. Thank you. And new at 6 tonight, Florida State letting us know it is now requiring students who stay on campus to shelter in windowless hallways or interior rooms like bathrooms and basements. Any students who live off campus can shelter at the Tucker Center tomorrow. We have more details and information on shelters across the Big Bend online right now. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says the state has partnered with Uber to give free rides to people who need to get to shelters. If you need help, you can use code Helene Relief in that app.
People who live in the Big Bend can also call the 800 number on your screen right now to get travel help while evacuating. The state has buses on deck to help folks get out of evacuation areas. In Wakulla County, no shelters will be offered as officials urge all residents to evacuate to somewhere safer. Our Stacey Inez spent her day in St. Mark's today, and Stacey, not a lot of people there at this hour.
No, it's really been a ghost town here, Jacob, and most people did what they needed to do earlier in the day, getting their boats to higher grounds. The majority of the people that I've seen here now are business owners, people that are trying to make sure that their shops, cafes, I'm here at the Riverside Cafe, so the owner, Stan West, he was here earlier trying to make sure that everything is cleared up. Of course, we're right here on the water, so a lot of people have to make sure that they take those preparations seriously. Now, at the same time, Stan West says he's been here 29 years, but he is really not feeling good about this particular storm. He says he is anxiously waiting but preparing. They did empty out everything earlier today. People also have been helping out over at Bo Lynn's Grocery here in St. Mark's to get things packed up over there as well. But other than that, the normal traffic that you would normally see here in St. Mark's, it's just not there. And here's what Stan had to say.
Scared. This one here is going to be our turn, I think. We got to be more ready this time than we've ever been before. It may take us a little bit of time to put everything back together, but we're resilient. We'll come right back. That's what we've done for years.
Now, we've been talking about these mandatory evacuations all day, and that is extremely important. I talked to the Wakulla County Sheriff's Office earlier today. They are stressing the importance of people not staying here during this storm. The Sheriff's Office told me the predicted storm surge for this county is something that is unprecedented. This is not something that people here will have seen before, and they do not want people to stay here and try to ride out the storm for that very reason alone. On the other hand, first responders are not going to be able to come to you until it is safe to do so. So in that regard, you would be on your own. But of course, taking every precaution, they want to make sure people are evacuating here in Wakulla County. Julie, Jacob, I'll send it back to you.
All right, Stacey, thank you. And next door in Franklin County, a mandatory evacuation went into effect at noon today.
Savannah Kelly joins us from Carabel. And Savannah, what do things look like there today?
Well, Jacob, Julie, aside from a few people fueling up at the gas station across the street, it is really quiet here. A lot of the businesses like this one have boarded up their windows and put sandbags in front of their doors. This community was hit pretty hard by Hurricane Michael back in 2018. One business owner I talked to today said she's still emotionally recovering from that, and this storm has her on edge, worrying that this area might see similar devastation.
It's a little nerve-wracking. Sometimes we flood when it's not even a hurricane here, so we have to prepare for anything, really, here in this building because it's pretty old.
Another business owner across the street was packing up a lot of her merchandise before evacuating. She told me she's worried about looters, so she wanted to make sure that everything that was of high value was out of her store before she evacuated. Reporting in Carabel, Savannah Kelly, WCTV Eyewitness News.
All right, Savannah, so many people preparing and evacuating, homeowners, businesses, you name it. I hope they're all safe. Thank you. Coastal communities not the only ones bracing for Hurricane Helene. Madison and Suwannee counties also have mandatory evacuation orders in place. Those are for people who live in mobile homes, RVs, or flood-prone areas.
Abrea Ruffin joins us live now from Live Oak at the Lowe's there. And Abrea, for folks staying in the area, how are they prepping?
Julie, Jacob, one customer I spoke with says the scariest part is not knowing how bad this will be or what the community will look like after. Today, dozens of customers poured into Lowe's to buy storm essentials to protect their homes. We spoke with residents who all shared a feeling of anxiety. I spoke with a resident who bought wood and screws to board up his windows. He says he has a wife, 2 children, and pets to keep safe ahead of the storm tomorrow.
It's like a bad dream over and over. It's like as soon as you get cleaned up for one storm, 6 months later you're getting hit again, or 8 months later you're getting hit again. So it's constantly picking up tree limbs and just, it's stressful, but you know, as long as the insurance rates don't keep going up, I'll be all right. You just gotta survive, push through it.
Suwannee County is under a mandatory evacuation order for mobile homes, RVs, and flood-prone areas. As the forecast for this storm continues to evolve, it is better to get out to safety now before roads are potentially blocked by trees or power lines. The storm manager tells us they plan to stay open until 9 p.m. That way residents can come get what they need, and also that way their staff can get home and prepare. Reporting in Suwannee County, Abrea Ruffin, WCTV Eyewitness News.
All right, so thank you so much, Abrea. Let's take another look at that latest cone. A major hurricane just about a day away from striking our beautiful coastline. Mike's back with his latest analysis next.
The real truth about Corsi.
Welcome back, everybody. Lots to get to, although things are not expected to change much from this forecast over the next 24 hours. So what we're seeing now is what you absolutely should prepare for. And if something happens to make it a little bit better, that's great. But literally, you have to prepare for the worst case scenario, which is what this is materializing into at this point. For now, Helene is a Category 1 hurricane moving north at 12 miles per hour, winds at 85. But it's expected to rapidly intensify tomorrow, perhaps reaching Category 4 status. Now, it's only a 5 mile per hour difference in that forecast wind speed. So, as far as math goes, it's not much of a difference, but it does make it go from 3 to a 4. So it's a little terrifying to see when it's still aimed at Appalachia Bay, the Big Bend, and South Georgia. Yes, there will be weakening after landfall, but because it's moving so quickly, those hurricane force winds are very likely, at least in gusts, to make it through all of our South Georgia counties too. So prepare for that and the consequences that go with it. Down trees, down power lines, extensive power outages. Plan on that happening. If you're at the coast, you need to hurry up and get out of there because the storm surge amounts could be massive. They will be life-threatening. You can't stay at the coast. You just cannot. It's not worth your life. The remnants of this thing will get far enough away, so we're still expecting some rapid improvement weather-wise by the time we get to Friday. But again, it's the power crews are on standby. They'll be in here as quickly as they can, but if there are a lot of down power poles, it's going to take a lot longer. It could take days for a lot of us to get power back. The consensus models, what that means is kind of a grouping of several models into one, if you will, and not a whole lot of differentiation between all of these. They are squarely aimed at the middle of our viewing area. Yes, where that center goes could see the strongest winds, but they are all going to be strong winds. So even if the center goes 30 miles east or west of you, treat it like that center is coming right at you. If I told you it was coming literally at your house, that's how you need to treat it as far as you and your family staying safe. Hurricane warnings, obviously in effect. Storm surge warnings, obviously in effect. We're talking about gigantic, life-threatening storm surge forecast values from Carabel all along Appalachia Bay, so all of the coast, 15 to 20 feet of storm surge. That's above normal high tide. And yes, high tide is not working in our favor. High tide is roughly around midnight tomorrow night. So right when this thing will be pushing that mountain of water inland with waves crashing on top of that. And even where it's a little bit better, it's still awful. So everywhere along the coast, if you can see our signal and you're along the coast, you need to get out. Visible satellite, that temporary little bit of dry air, yeah, I think it's already kind of given up. Look at the structure of this. What we call that central dense overcast is starting to develop. There's no reason to think that this won't continue. All the signs are there. Yes, you can see how, looking at the satellite view, it doesn't look like, there are some disruptions. Yes, there has been a little bit of dry air that's been drawn into it, but it's not enough. Yes, there's plenty of dry air way up here, but that's going to be blocked by the system, which will be a fast mover. There won't be time for it to get into the system to have any impacts until after it moves on by. That's why it'll dry in a big hurry by Friday, because all of this drier air will get drawn in behind it, but too little, too late. The only reason I put adjusted on here is if you see somebody else that's showing the graph model that we typically use, it's still insistent on going farther east. The official forecast is right up through the middle of our viewing area. So basically, I've adjusted this to show you that all of our Big Bend and South Georgia counties will be close enough to the center where we could see these incredibly powerful winds exceeding hurricane force throughout South Georgia. Look at the futurecast winds based on that. Through late afternoon, it's still not a big deal. Then it rapidly comes apart around midnight. Look at these forecast winds here. We're talking sustained winds 75 to 100 miles per hour here. And this could be underdoing it. And these types of winds will spread through South Georgia. They will weaken a little bit, but not enough. So that even at 3 a.m., when it starts to depart our area, we're still talking about hurricane force winds all the way up to Tifton. Everyone's going to feel the impact of this. Yes, there is a chance for a few tornadoes, mainly well to the east. So on top of all that, we'll let you know if there are any tornado warnings, but you have to treat this as if it were an EF2 tornado on the ground confirmed coming at your house. If that scares you and you need to get to a safer place, that's what you should do tomorrow night. The rainfall amounts, we will see some flash flooding. 4 to 8 inch amounts certainly can't be ruled out. It will get better quickly by Friday, but all these elements are going to cause some major, major problems throughout the region. Right now, it's not too bad. We've got temperatures in the 70s and 80s, but we already see some of these showers and a few storms moving quickly from southeast to northwest or south to north. That's what you see here showing up on the futurecast, or rather on the radar over the last hour. And these will continue to move toward the north. So we'll be in and out of these scattered showers and storms. I think these will stay non-severe, but tomorrow after sunrise, conditions just go downhill in a big, big hurry. We'll have lots more coming out through the rest of the night, and at any time tomorrow. We'll throw it to break. We'll be back in a few minutes.
WCTV's Police.
Rickards head football coach Quentin Lewis knew early on that Jalen Wiggins would be
Putnam, Telfair, Twiggs, Wheeler, Wilcox, and Wilkinson. In east central Georgia, Emmanuel, Glasscock, Greene, Hancock, Jefferson, Johnson, Tolliver, Trutland, Warren, Washington, and Wilkes. In north central Georgia, Barrow, Cherokee, Clayton, Cobb, Dawson, DeKalb, Douglas, Fannin, Fayette, Forsyth, Gilmer, Gwinnett, Hall, Henry, Lumpkin, Morgan, Newton, North Fulton, Pickens, Rockdale, South Fulton, Union, and Walton. In northeast Georgia, Banks, Clark, Jackson, Madison, Oconee, Oglethorpe, Townsend, White. In northwest Georgia, Bartow, Carroll, Catoosa, Chattooga, Dade, Floyd, Gordon, Harrelson, Murray, Paulding, Polk, Walker, and Whitfield. In southeast Georgia, Toombs. In west central Georgia, Chattahoochee, Coweta, Harris, Hurd, Limar, Macon, Marion, Meriwether, Muskogee, Pike, Schley, Spalding, Stewart, Sumter, Talbot, Taylor, Troop, Upson, and Webster. When, through Friday afternoon. Impacts, excessive runoff may result in significant flooding of rivers, creeks, streams, and other low-lying and flood-prone locations. Creeks and streams may rise out of their banks. Substantial flooding may occur in poor drainage and urban areas. Additional details, areas of heavy rainfall will continue across much of north and portions of central Georgia through tonight, which will likely lead to areas of flash flooding. Additional widespread torrential rainfall is expected to overspread the area Thursday into Thursday night as Hurricane Helene approaches. storm, total rainfall of 4 to 10 inches with locally higher amounts over 12 inches are expected through Friday. Widespread flooding is expected with significant flash flooding and moderate to major river flooding possible. http://www.weather.gov/safety/flood. You should monitor later forecasts and be alert for possible flood warnings. Those living in areas prone to flooding should be prepared to take action should flooding develop. The current time is 9:58 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. At 4 p.m. Central Daylight Time, Oregon, 2100 UTC, the center of Hurricane Helene was located near latitude 22.5 north, longitude 86.6 west. Helene is moving toward the north near 12 miles per hour, 19 kilometers/h. A northward or north-northeastward motion at a faster forward speed is expected during the next 36 hours. On the forecast track, Helene will move across the eastern Gulf of Mexico tonight and Thursday and cross the Florida Big Bend coast Thursday evening. After landfall, Helene is expected to turn northwestward and slow down over the Tennessee Valley on Friday and Saturday. Maximum sustained winds are near 85 miles per hour, 140 kilometers/h with higher gusts. Strengthening is forecast, and Helene is expected to be a major hurricane when it reaches the Florida Big Bend coast Thursday evening. Weakening is expected after landfall, but Helene's fast forward speed will allow strong, damaging winds, especially in gusts, to penetrate well inland across the southeastern United States, including over the higher terrain of the southern Appalachians. Hurricane force winds extend outward up to 25 miles 35 kilometers from the center, and tropical storm force winds extend outward up to 345 miles 555 kilometers. The estimated minimum central pressure is 978 millibars, 28.88 inches.
Agrees that this storm, the eye of the storm, is coming in this region.
We're evacuated. We've been through some storms here before. We've seen the surges. We've never had a wind event like this before.
As long as I can, I want to stay. I'm going to wait till the last minute.
Hurricane Helene putting Florida on alert, and I cannot stress how important it is to take this storm seriously. Mexico, you can see the video here, already feeling the impacts with some heavy rain and gusty winds. And that's, not even close to as strong as this storm is going to get before it hits the United States. Helene is going to strengthen a lot more, intensify very quickly as it targets Florida's Big Bend for landfall in about 24 hours or so. The entire state is preparing for the worst as Helene is forecast to become a monster Category 4 storm with life-threatening storm surge, possibly unsurvivable in some cases, hurricane force winds, and devastating flash flooding. Yeah, this is a Fox Weather Alert. Welcome into our coverage of Hurricane Helene. I'm Ari Sarsalari, and we're going to bring you the latest on Helene as the entire state of Florida is under some kind of tropical weather alert. That is something that I feel like does not happen very often. This is going to be likely a historic storm, one to remember, and the time is ticking down as far as making the preparations. I do want to go out.
Fox 5 News at 10 starts right now.
Georgia bracing for the impact of Hurricane Helene. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Courtney Bryant.
Hello and welcome. I'm Tom Haynes. In tonight for Russ Spencer, the storm expected to bring severe storms, heavy wind, and flooding.
Our Fox 5 Storm Team meteorologist Alex Forbes joins us now. Alex, the big question is, when can people expect this storm to hit here in our area?
Yeah, Courtney. So we've got rain falling right now in North Georgia. Starting off with the big picture here. Here we are way up in Atlanta. The center of the storm is really just in line with Key West right about now and continues to move towards the north. This rain is part of a cold front that is continuing to stall across the area, which means the rain is having a hard time advancing. And that front is basically what Helene is going to ride along here in the hours to come. The forecast now, this is as of the 8 p.m. advisory on the hurricane, is for by 2 p.m. tomorrow, a Category 4, that's going to be just to the west of the Tampa area. But look at this, 130-mile-an-hour winds. It still has about 200 miles of warm Gulf water to go, meaning it has the opportunity to continue to intensify. And by the time we get to the overnight hours, Thursday into Friday, the possibility of still a Category 1 hurricane just south of Atlanta in the Columbus area. And look at this, by the time it makes it to Nashville, Tennessee, still a tropical storm, and you see the cone here looking at the center of it coming to the west of Atlanta. That means we are going to be on the dirty side of the storm. Let me take you hour by hour here, really day part by day part, as to what to expect. First on Fox 5 Live Viper, seeing the heavy rain continue down to the south at this hour, and we have tropical storm warnings in effect for all of North Georgia. But look at this down to the south, a hurricane warning. That's going to be from Crawford and Bibb County southward. There is a hurricane warning butting up right against us now in Metro Atlanta, and it would not surprise me to see that perhaps extended. Okay, we've got a lot to break down here. I've got a change in the forecast. We are upping the wind speeds for parts of the area. I'm going to have that for you in a couple minutes. And I'm also going to show you my concern for Northeast Georgia. Flooding going to be a big part of Helene. All those details coming up in just a little bit. Tom and Courtney.
Yeah, we have a lot more to talk about. We'll see you soon, Alex. Thanks. Both GEMA and Atlanta City officials shared updates on preparations for the storm they say will affect all 159 Georgia counties.
And tonight, state and city officials are bracing for Helene's impact, expected to make landfall as a Category 4 storm. We have team coverage tonight. Fox 5's Christopher King in southeast Atlanta on emergency shelters. But we'll begin with our own Joy Dukes, who's live at GEMA headquarters. Joy?
Yeah, Tom, Courtney, GEMA officials telling us that this storm is going to hit even harder than they initially thought. And the timeline for when it will hit has also moved up. So now residents have effectively the next 24 hours to get everything they need to get in order together and also make sure that they are absolutely prepared for this. Now, we also heard from local municipalities about how they are working to ensure that they are storm ready. As Hurricane Helene barrels toward the Florida coast, its power and widespread impact is becoming much more clear. In an update Wednesday, Georgia emergency management officials said Helene is now projected to cross state lines as a Category 3 hurricane.
The reports that we received this afternoon are that the forward progression now are 25 mile per hour plus. So that's much faster than we even anticipated yesterday.
Placing both South and Central Georgia under a hurricane warning, with conditions now expected to reach as far north as Columbus and Macon.
We're going to see some significant power outages, probably nothing like we've seen.
In addition to widespread power outages statewide, GEMA Director Chris Stalling said flash flooding, tornadoes in the east, and mudslides in North Georgia are now of great concern.
We had reports of a tornado that touched down in Habersham earlier from this particular event. We've already seen some power outages around the state, I think about 6,000.
He said the Department of Agriculture has opened an emergency pet shelter. The National Guard will deploy 250 guardsmen on Thursday, and an emergency response center has been set up in Macon. Around Metro Atlanta, local municipalities like Forest Park are also doing what they can to prepare as a tropical storm warning has been issued.
Vehicles all stopped. Personnel staffing in place in the event that we need to respond to any incident.
At a media briefing Wednesday afternoon, Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens said public works and watershed management crews have been working proactively to clean out clogged stormwater drains in anticipation for heavy rainfall and monitoring flooding hotspots.
We want to assure our residents, our businesses, and visitors that preparations are well underway in Atlanta.
The city's ATL 311 line will also begin operating outside of normal business hours starting at midnight. And again, now is the time to prepare, to make sure that you have an emergency kit, to make sure that you have multiple ways to stay informed about what is going on, and to make sure that you have your cellular devices charged. Now, Atlanta city leaders told us that if you want to, you can sign up for emergency alerts with them through ATL Notify. You can text that to this number. It's 24639 if you want to sign up for emergency alerts, and you can certainly stay up to date on the latest here with us by downloading the Fox 5 Atlanta News app. That's the latest here live at GMA headquarters. Joy Dukes, Fox 5 News.
Yeah, a lot of good information in there for people to keep in mind as they prepare. Joy, thanks. And the storm could be especially dangerous for the homeless.
Our team coverage continues here tonight. Fox 5's Christopher King is live in Southeast Atlanta, where one crisis intervention group's opening up its doors to provide an emergency shelter, Christopher, for people to weather the storm.
That's right, Tom and Courtney. Frontline Response is activating its emergency shelter, and they're sending out teams to pick up people experiencing homelessness so they don't have to take their chances in the brutal weather.
It's very dangerous.
Najee Sundiata says living on the streets is tough, even in good weather.
There are others out there.
Sundiata is grateful Frontline Response International opened its doors so he doesn't have to risk his life in the unforgiving elements.
I would be out in the midst of the storm.
Can I put this back here, please? Come on, fellas.
When there's an imminent threat to the unhoused people, we mobilize.
Thank you. Terry Tucker is the CEO of crisis intervention group Frontline Response. Wednesday night, they activated their emergency shelter.
So we have hot food, we have games, we have counselors, we have clothes, we have toiletry items. Most importantly, we actually have a bed that they can sleep in.
Helene has Metro Atlanta in the crosshairs. People experiencing homelessness are at special risk.
It could be flash flood, just like anybody else. Somebody could be sleeping somewhere, something could come through the night, and then, they don't get out in time.
Frontline is sending out teams and vans to pick up people who need a hand and a safe place to ride out the storm.
Anytime there's something that could pose a danger to unhoused individuals, we don't wait for them to come to us. We go out looking and making sure that everybody have a safe place to go. So having a place where they can go, where they know that they're going to be protected from the elements, is absolutely critical during this time.
Now, this shelter can accommodate 157 people, and they do need volunteers and donations here. We'll have a link to that on our website if you want to help. We're live in Southeast Atlanta. Christopher King, Fox 5.
Yeah, good to see those folks being taken care of. Christopher, thanks. Georgia Power crews mobilizing and gearing up to respond to whatever Helene may bring to the state. But officials say now's the time to prepare in case power goes out for an extended period of time.
That means you should charge your cell phones, buy extra batteries for your electronic devices, make sure your flashlights are working, and stock up on any non-perishable items. They also warn residents not to bring your generator inside your home.
If your power does go out and you decide to use a gas generator, please place that outside because it is an engine and it is producing fumes, so you definitely don't want to have that inside. Having enough supplies to maintain yourself, food and water, medications, those are all important things to have just in case the power goes out.
Georgia Power says they're now planning to fully activate their operations center within the next 24 to 48 hours.
A number of schools have canceled classes or are moving to digital learning days because of the storm. Atlanta Public Schools will be closed tomorrow and Friday. Gwinnett County will have a digital learning day tomorrow and will be closed on Friday.
And Fulton County schools will be closed Friday. Also, Clayton County schools will be closed Friday as well. The district has canceled all extracurricular activities through Saturday. We have the list scrolling at the bottom of your screen and on fox5atlanta.com. Grady Memorial Hospital is also closing all of its clinics and neighborhood health centers starting tomorrow at noon. They'll remain closed on Friday. All elective and non-urgent procedures scheduled for Friday will be rescheduled for a later date. Grady Memorial Hospital hospital will remain open and operational regardless of severe weather conditions.
In addition, the Gwinnett, Noonan, and Rockdale County health departments will be closed during the storm. All GNR public health centers, environmental offices, and its district's offices will be closed starting at 2 p.m. on Thursday and remain closed on Friday. The offices will reopen and resume regular hours on Monday, the 30th. You can get the latest forecast and weather alerts right on your phone on the Fox 5 Storm Team weather app. Just scan the QR code or download it for free in your app store.
Coming up, we continue our coverage of Hurricane Helene. After the break, we take you to one of the first places the storm is expected to hit.
That's why you need to call me, Dr. Brown, at Arrowhead Clinics now.
This is the insurance company, and I have a big fat check for you for $500.
Hold on, it's Dr. Brown. Don't take anything from the insurance company after your accident. They're giving you as little money as possible. Get to the bag by calling Arrowhead first. We'll treat and document your injuries and help you get everything you deserve in your settlement.
Get me to the bag, Dr. Brown. I'm calling Arrowhead.
Arrowhead, where it pays to get well.
Hey, I'm Heather Sullivan with Sullivan Smart Sense to help you cut your impulse spending. Remove your credit card information from the retail websites where you shop, like Amazon or Walmart. If it's stored, it's just too easy to click and spend. Having to enter your credit card information each time gives you more time to think before you buy.
Hey, it's Dr. Mike. Listen, new research finds that if you're older, over 65, if you exercise, you're going to improve your memory. Now, it actually helps with a part of the brain called the hippocampus. If you exercise, you will improve your memory and reduce your risk of developing dementia. I'm Dr. Mike Sirigliano with the Fox Medical Team.
Tonight's storm knocked down a large tree in southwest Atlanta. Take a look here. This is the scene on Beecher Road tonight. You can see that tree is laying across the roadway. Thankfully, the tree didn't appear to bring down any power lines or cause any other damage. Forecasters are expecting Hurricane Helene will intensify as it hits the warmer waters of the eastern Gulf of Mexico.
Scientists say this storm's quickly moving, and this means that strong winds won't have a lot of time to weaken before hitting North Georgia. The UGA Weather Network says that they're less concerned about tornadoes and more concerned with the hurricane's wind gust and rain. They say that we should prepare for widespread power outages and delays as power companies try to restore it.
The combination of all that rain plus the wind mean a lot of trees are going to fall over. That's going to cause problems for getting through streets. It's going to cause problems for power. And so I expect to see, and this will be Thursday evening into Friday morning probably. I see a lot of power outages, see a lot of flooding.
The UGA Weather Network says that you should move your car to higher ground if you live in areas that flood, and make sure that you have a flashlight and plenty of batteries. If you have important perishable items like medication or breast milk, it could be a good idea to stock up on ice for a cooler. All eyes will be on South Georgia as Hurricane Helene moves inland.
One of the first places the storm is expected to hit is Valdosta.
Fox 5's Tyler Finger gives us a look at preparations already underway there.
There is definitely a lot of concern with this system, which is expected to rapidly intensify over the course of the next 24 hours before it slams into this area. We're here at a sandbag distribution site in Valdosta, which has run out of sand. They have shovels and sandbags ready to go. Unfortunately, no sand. Tonight, Valdosta is on high alert as Helene closes in.
It's a race against time in South Georgia as residents make their last-minute preparations ahead of Hurricane Helene.
It's going to be a massive storm, so we can only brace for what's about to come.
AJ Duplessis packed sandbags in Valdosta Wednesday to prepare for possible flooding. He's no stranger to tropical trouble after living in Louisiana and Florida. He moved to Valdosta this month, and he's not taking any chances.
You never know what may occur. Despite of the category of the hurricanes, you never know how things may occur. So you always want to be prepared.
The Fox 5 storm team says Hurricane Helene will first crash ashore somewhere along Florida's panhandle Thursday before moving into Georgia. The state's EMA warns that all of Georgia's 159 counties need to be on alert.
Here in Lowndes County, what's the biggest thing you're worried about with this hurricane?
So we're really worried about the wind threat and the potential to see hurricane force winds as it comes into the south end of the county.
That strong wind means Valdosta is preparing for widespread power outages. While this area is no stranger to storms, officials are urging everyone here to stock up on food and supplies to be ready.
We've had Hurricane Idalia on August 30th of 2023. We had Hurricane Debbie just a month ago, and now we have Hurricane Helene. So our community is really reeling from these storms.
Thank you, Mr. Louisiana.
Many in this community are heeding the warnings and are taking this storm seriously.
Stocked up on everything. I'm prepared. I got water, I got food. You know, like I said, I got a generator, so I'm prepared. It's not my first hurricane.
The city of Valdosta says they expect to replenish this site with more sand tomorrow morning. Shelters are expected to open up soon, and schools will be out starting tomorrow. In Valdosta, Tyler Fingert, Fox 5 News.
You can get the latest forecast and weather alerts right on your phone on the Fox 5 Storm Team weather app.
An employee at Hartsfield-Jackson Airport says he's lucky to be alive. He was attacked after defending one of his coworkers. Supervisor Quan Lawrence says it was 4:30 in the morning when he rushed to the airport shuttle to deal with an erratic passenger. That passenger turned out to be a homeless, belligerent man who was being aggressive toward the female shuttle driver. That's when Supervisor Lawrence stepped in.
During the struggle, I was stabbed in the back. I received lacerations across my eye and nose and fractured my right hand.
The employee says the stabbing draws attention to airport safety and the growing problem of the homeless gathering at the airport. Other stakeholders told members of the City Council's Transportation Committee Atlanta's international reputation is at stake, and it's time to address the homeless issue.
And the Clayton County Police are asking for the public's help in solving a cold case. Police say the victim, Randall Harper, was shot to death back on March the 19th at the Hookah Me Up Shop and Lounge. If you have any information on this case, you're asked to contact Clayton County Police.
Today, reality TV star Julie Chrisley was resentenced in federal court in her recent fraud conviction. She will now be spending 7 years behind bars for bank fraud and tax evasion. This comes after an appeals court found an error in how her role in the scheme was evaluated. Her original sentence was vacated in June.
Coming, we're now 40 days away from a critical presidential election. Tonight, messages from Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Trump as they rally for votes in two key battleground states.
East Georgia, from Columbus to Atlanta to Gainesville and the northeast Georgia mountains. Widespread flooding is expected, with significant flash flooding and moderate to major river flooding possible. Hurricane and tropical storm force wind gusts, potentially exceeding 70 miles per hour, are expected to begin across the southern portion of the forecast area on Thursday evening, then spread north overnight into Friday morning and continuing into the afternoon. Given the saturated soils, widespread downing of trees and significant power outages are expected. Prepare for an extended period of power loss. Short-lived tornadoes will also be possible across east central Georgia Thursday evening through early Friday morning, with greatest potential for areas north and east of the track of Helene. Helene will be an expansive system with impacts occurring well away from the storm center. Preparations should be completed well before impacts begin. The time to act is now. At 4 p.m. Central Daylight Time, Oregon, 2100 UTC. The center of Hurricane Helene was located near latitude 22.5 north, longitude 86.6 west. Helene is moving toward the north near 12 miles per hour, 19 kilometers/h. A northward or north-northeastward motion at a faster forward speed is expected during the next 36 hours. On the forecast track, Helene will move across the eastern Gulf of Mexico tonight and Thursday and cross the Florida Big Bend coast Thursday evening. After landfall, Helene is expected to turn northwestward and slow down over the Tennessee Valley on Friday and Saturday. Maximum sustained winds are near 85 miles per hour, 140 kilometers/h with higher gusts. Strengthening is forecast, and Helene is expected to be a major hurricane when it reaches the Florida Big Bend coast Thursday evening. Weakening is expected after landfall, but Helene's fast forward speed will allow strong, damaging winds, especially in gusts, to penetrate well inland across the southeastern United States, including over the higher terrain of the southern Appalachians. Hurricane force winds extend outward up to 25 miles 35 kilometers from the center, and tropical storm force winds extend outward up to 345 miles 555 kilometers. The estimated minimum central pressure is 978 millibars 28.88 inches. What? Moderate flooding is forecast. Where? Yellow River at Gee's Mill Road. When? From Thursday evening to late Sunday morning. Impacts at 11.0 feet. Flood stage is reached. Minor flooding begins in the woodlands, fields and pasture along the river upstream and downstream from the gauge on Gee's Mill Road in Rockdale County. Portions of Sockwell Road by the river in Newton County will be around 2 feet underwater. At 16.0 feet, moderate flooding begins. In Newton County, Riverside Estates Travel and Mobile Home Park begins to experience significant flooding. Trailers must be moved to higher ground and several mobile homes will flood. Evacuations may be needed. In Rockdale County, some flooding begins in the Lake Capri subdivision. At 20.0 feet, major flooding begins. In Newton County, Riverside Estates Travel and Mobile Home Park floods. West Dollar and Sycamore Roads flood. Between 10 to 25 homes will flood, trailers will need to be moved to higher ground, and evacuations will be required. In Rockdale County, flooding expands in the Lake Capri subdivision. Flooding occurs along the several roads including Lake Sorrento Court, Lake Capri Drive, Capistrano Way, Riveria, and Westminster Lane. Several homes will experience flooding. Additional details: at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time Wednesday, the stage was 2.8 feet. Forecast: the river is expected to rise above flood stage late tomorrow evening to a crest of 19.0 feet Saturday morning. It will then fall below flood stage Sunday morning. Flood stage is 11.0 feet. Flood history: no available flood history. http://wweather.gov/safety/flood. What? Flooding caused by excessive